Hello Gemini, and welcome to my channel Tarot by Gabrielle. This is going to be a general reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus signs we're doing a new spread. So it's your past, present, and future energy in love. The point is really to look at your past experiences in love, how that's affecting you currently, where your blockages lie, and what you need to know in order to move forward in alignment with your higher self to attract the love that you desire and deserve. As I do in all of my readings, I've pulled the overall energy and clarified those messages as well as the overall theme for the reading, which, yes, we'll jump into in just a second, but I still have the tarot deck I'll be pulling from, the clarification deck, and the advice deck I will be using to close out the reading in the extended. Any information on the extended reading or on booking a personal reading with me is in the description box below. Last thing, please remember that these are general readings. They are not here to resonate fully for everyone, and they won't resonate fully for everyone. So do please remember to take what does resonate and helps your personal situation and leave what does not. All right, Gemini, let's jump on in. We are going to first dive into your past experiences in love. You have awakening with the Judgment in reverse. So keep in mind, this could be talking about several different people. This could be talking about one person in particular. Again, take it as it resonates. But I feel as if you have this tendency in your relationships to see people through the lens of rose-colored glasses. Now, when we do that, what we are basically seeing is an illusion of who we want that person to be and ignoring who they are actually capable of showing up as, because people can only meet us where they're at today. Now, we can see the good in people, and that's a fantastic quality to have. And I will never, ever advocate for getting rid of that quality, but I have learned, especially if you consider yourself a little bit more empathetic, that sometimes we have a tendency to see people through the lens of that potential and who we want them to be and kind of ignore how they're actually treating us and how they're actually making us feel. And I feel like you might go through this experience, or like either you've been through this experience or have a tendency to go through this experience of seeing someone as one way and then like all of a sudden their true colors come out, that illusion is shattered, and you're like, what the hell, who is this? And that leaves you kind of, feeling very confused and unable to trust yourself as you move forward. Now, in your current energy, you have innocent with the world in reverse. So you have this feeling of, I'm doing the best that I know how. I'm trying to be as loving and as kind, as compassionate for other people as I possibly can be. Yet I keep getting screwed over, or things keep falling apart, or things keep not working out for me. Like I'm stuck in some cycle. No matter how hard I try, I can't seem to break out. And I feel like what you're doing isn't necessarily the issue. I feel like there are some fundamental dynamics in your relationships that need to be addressed and healed that might actually be the source of the issue, because your overall theme for the reading is codependency. And then this says addictions are affecting your romantic life. Codependency is such a common form of relationships, and it's very much not sustainable. It always, always, always ends in somebody getting hurt. And typically, when you're dealing with someone who's a little bit more on the empath side of things, you tend to become dependent on your worth being directly connected to the value that you provide other people. So that is why you are seeing this from this place of, I am always providing value to other people. I'm always there. I'm always loving. I'm always caring for. I'm always taking care of others. But what you're not seeing is this isn't about what you're doing for others. This is about your relationship with yourself and how, in the pursuit of trying to take care of other people and be there for other people, you are abandoning yourself, which eventually leads to that abandonment or that betrayal or that loss on the outside. So it's a direct reflection here. So there's something a lot deeper going on here that I feel this reading is going to bring to the surface. Now, in your immediate future, you have leap of faith with the Knight of Swords in reverse. This is learning to attract instead of chase. We chase love when we search for it in basically when our actions are coming from a place of doing things for love instead of doing things from a place from love for ourselves and for others. You might be like, no, I'm doing, things from love, but at the core of it, you might be looking for those things to provide you with love, to provide you with value. Again, codependency is receiving your value from the value that you provide other people. And typically there's two roles in a codependent relationship. You kind of have that giver and you have the taker. Typically the people who struggle with heartbreak the most tend to actually struggle more with that giver role, because the taker can always replace the giver role with whoever they can receive that energy from. The giver is always going to, you only have so much energy you can give, and eventually you're going to run out, and you're going to be like, why is everything that I've given not good enough for you? And then you turn around and you feel worthless, because it feels like no matter how hard you try, it's not working out for you. But that it's not that what you're giving to is the wrong thing. It's that in the process of giving to somebody else, you are not making sure that you are also receiving what you need. So kind of breaking out of that dynamic and learning to really see your value and know that you are just as deserving of receiving than what you are giving. And I feel like there's a part of you that believes that if you give enough, eventually you'll receive. But what keeps happening is you give, you eventually run out and you never receive. And you're like, it's never going to happen for me. I'm never going to get the love that I deserve, because no matter how hard I try, I can't receive it. So let's dive into this a little bit. Let's start, Gemini, looking at this past experience in love, clarifying awakening with the Judgment in reverse. This is for Gemini's past experience in love. Yeah, these are in reverse. Justice in reverse, Hermit in reverse, and then you have this Ten of Swords. Just feeling like you are constantly getting the short end of the stick. I feel like you tend to maybe gravitate towards relationships that make you feel very alone. Meaning that you are always the one pulling the weight, you are always the one putting in the effort, and you are constantly receiving the short end of the stick. And, when we go through that experience enough times, we start to feel like we're always going to experience that. Like, no matter how hard we try, we're always going to get screwed over, we're always going to get betrayed, we're always going to get abandoned, or whatever the specific case might be for you. And so it's obvious that you've been through some pretty, either multiple painful connections, or maybe one in particular that has brought this dynamic to the surface. But I feel like there's a need to kind of change your perspective on what has happened, so that you can see the truth of what's really going on. I mean, that's what the Judgment in reverse is about, is like needing to be willing to see the truth of something, not the illusion, which our illusion is usually coming from a place of our ego, what our ego wants us to see to keep us safe. So it's nothing that you need to, feel bad about. But the more that we can approach our life from a place of truth and like that radical honesty with ourselves, the more that we are going to live in a life that is in alignment with our highest good, which is going to be the one that is the most fulfilling anyway. All right, what else does Gemini need to know? This Three of Cups in reverse, just feeling as if things always falling apart, getting the rug ripped out from underneath you. And I feel like it's hard, because you come from this approach of, I do feel like, especially with this Innocent card, I feel like you are really coming from this place of trying to do the right thing, of trying to be the best that you can in your relationships, trying to love others in the best way that you know how. And I don't think you're failing at that. I don't think you are failing at loving other people whatsoever. I don't want to say you're failing at it, but I think that you are in the process not loving yourself very much. Now, you're hoping that the more you love others, that they will love you. And that is where you're doing it for love. And that's okay, because a lot of people do that, and that is nothing to be shameful of, and you're not doing anything wrong. But recognizing our dynamics and our role in those dynamics can help us address and approach things from a very different perspective in our relationships. Because I can tell you with a 100% certainty, I've been in a lot of relationships in my life, and some that didn't last all that long, and some that lasted a pretty lengthy time. And I had never, in my experience, ever experienced a healthy relationship. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't experience it in my parents. I've never experienced it within the realm of my family, so I had never experienced a healthy relationship. So being able to experience one, I've learned so much about what I used to think was love was and what I have now learned love actually is. And I used to think that love was about, sacrificing yourself for somebody else, and that was always what the most love was about. And I think we see that in a lot of the way that love is portrayed in media and in our society. Is it's this unhealthy kind of like sacrifice for another person, and that's not what love is. It is not, love is not coming from a place of self-abandonment, because that will always lead you to getting hurt in the end. Now, do you have to compromise, and do you have to be willing to sacrifice in relationships? Absolutely. But that's a reciprocated thing. That's something that happens on both sides. It shouldn't be a one-sided thing. And I feel like that's a lot of what your relationships have felt very one-sided, where you're the one who is putting in all of the work and ends up getting screwed in the end. All right, let's get a little bit more on this past experience in love before we move into your current energy. Imbalanced priorities. And a lot of this is coming from, is bringing a lot of your insecurities to the surface. I'm not good enough. It typically also, when you are dealing with a giver-taker kind of dynamic, and you're the giver and you're dealing with this taker, that taker, when you are done, when you are empty, when you have nothing else to give, that taker is going to go somewhere else because it has lost. They have lost their energy source, and they're going to replace you with someone else that they can take energy from, and you're going to go, what the hell, why was I not good enough? And it's not that you are not good enough. It's that you are not in a healthy, reciprocal, balanced relationship, and that has nothing to do with your value or your worth or your ability to be able to receive the love that you deserve and desire. But what I can tell you is, if you continue to approach your relationships from this place, with this mindset, with this pattern, with this behavior, with this dynamic, the outcome will continue to be the same. You will continue to perpetuate the cycle. So let's figure out what you can know to break out of that, because this world in reverse is saying there is a cycle here that needs to be broken. So what does Gemini need to know currently in order to attract the love they are deserving of and desiring of? You're focusing on the wrong thing here. Okay. So I want a little bit more on this Four of Cups. These readings, this is the fourth one of this spread that I have done, and man, these truths are truthin', and it's kind of hard to be able to put it into words without, I obviously don't want to come across as triggering here. Okay. Here's the thing. Yes, you've been screwed over. And yes, you have received the short end of the stick a lot. But this is something that I had to learn the hard way. Is an attitude in which you are always the victim will continue to create circumstances for yourself where you are a victim. Now, this is not victim blaming. This is not me in any way, shape, or saying that the things that you have experienced and the pain and the trauma is your fault, because that is absolutely not the case. But what I am saying is that you, and I'm gonna speak about what the talk that I had to have with myself. I realized that I was the common denominator in all of my relationships. And yes, other people treated me poorly. And yes, there were situations that were entirely and completely unfair. But I was the common denominator in every single one of those relationships. And my track record wasn't all that great. So what I needed to do was to look, instead of looking at this perspective, because I spent a long time in a poor me attitude. Poor me, always getting screwed over. People always leave. People always do this. People always do that. And those things were very true. But the more that I stayed stuck in that attitude, the more I attracted the exact same connections over and over and over again. And I had to learn to take a look in the mirror. And I had to learn to say, okay, what's going on here? What's my role in every single one of these connections that either hurt me or fall apart or leave me or whatever the case was? And I learned a lot in that kind of conversation that I had with myself. And it was a lengthy conversation. It took several months. It wasn't like I just one night learned all this stuff about myself. But the more that we focus on how other people have done us wrong and how other people have hurt us and what other people have done, the more that we are powerless in our ability to move forward and do things differently. So understanding cycles is understanding that cycles aren't a punishment. We don't go through karmic experiences because the universe is trying to say, you deserve this, you must suffer. It's a way to say, our relationships are and always will be a mirror. They're a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. And when we feel that we are not valuable, when we feel we are not good enough, when we feel that we are not deserving of the love that we truly desire, we will experience that directly reflected back at us in our relationships. And until we are able to fix those feelings that we have about ourselves and fix our relationship with ourselves, our relationships will continue to stay the same outside of ourselves because we cannot change other people. And the more we try, the more we get hurt. We can, however, change ourselves. And as we change, the people that we attract are going to be different. So, I think that right now is a time to really look in the mirror a little bit and maybe in the mirror of your past relationships and look at this from a place of, okay, what was my role? And that's not to say that you weren't a victim. It's not to say that you were deserving of what you experienced, okay? It's to say you deserve to take your power back and to feel powerful in your approach as you move forward so that you can attract the connections that are going to value you, that are going to treat you like you deserve, that are going to show up for you, and that aren't just going to drain you and take from you. But the thing is, people can only take what you give. And when you give from this place of believing that the more you give, the more valuable you are going to attach your value to the value you provide other people. And that is not where your value lies. Your value is who you are inherently, just who you are, being a human being on this earth. That is your value. You are valuable for being you. You have value. And what you provide other people is a cherry on top to the value that you already have. But when we believe our value is only about what we provide others, then we will constantly experience that in our reality. And when we don't have anything left to give others because we are completely drained, because you have an energy cup, and once that energy drains, you have nothing left to give, that person is going to take them there, all they can get until they have nothing left to take, and then they're going to say, okay, I gotta go drain someone else now because I don't have an energy source. I posted something on my channel. You are not an energy source for people who refuse to do the inner work. That is not who you are. That is not where your value lies. So you have to take your power back by deciding that that is no longer who you are and what you are. You are valuable for who you are. Okay, let's keep going. Spent a long time on that message. Current energy for Gemini. The universe is asking you to take a leap of faith in your relationships because I see this Knight of Wands and obviously you have this leap of faith. If we do what we've always done, we will always get to what we've always gotten. If nothing ever changes, nothing ever changes. So the universe is asking you, what can change? How can you change your approach? How can you go about your relationships differently? Can you get pickier? Can you put yourself out there more authentically? Can you be open about your needs? Can you set stronger boundaries? What can you do? And this is talking about in your current relationships, maybe not, because how our current relationships are going to either support or block the attraction of future relationships. So, what we create in the future starts with what we can control right now. So this is about taking an honest look at the relationships in your life and saying, are these people in my life, am I just an energy source? Or am I experiencing reciprocal healthy relationships with the people in my life? I realized when I first got into my connection with my fiance that I had never experienced healthy love before, right? I kind of talked about that. And then I attracted, new friends into my life, and I realized I had never experienced healthy friendships in my life before. All of my relationships had always been very codependent, and that's why they always ended in me getting very hurt. And sometimes I was the giver and sometimes I was the taker. And, when we can be honest with our role there, we can adjust our approach as we move forward. And that is where the inner growth, we don't attract the relationships that we're truly deserving of with the way that we look. You don't attract it with your hair, with your money, or with your success. That might attract people, but that doesn't mean that attracts the right people. We attract what's really, meant for us with our inner growth, with the relationship that we work on with ourselves. That's where the love that we truly desire starts to be reflected back at us. Current energy here for Gemini. Five of Cups with the Star. I think one of the biggest things that holds us back from attracting the right relationships is believing that if things would have played out differently in our past relationships, that we would have, that we've missed our opportunity in love. If I would have done better, if I wouldn't have spoken up about my needs, or if I wouldn't have been honest, or if I wouldn't have done this, or if I wouldn't have done that. What is meant for you will never pass you. And the universe wants you to know that what is meant for you has not passed you. The healing that you are having to go through because of, maybe past relationships or childhood relationships, whatever the case is, that healing is the point of you being here on earth. Your soul is here to experience lessons, to experience growth, and that growth is going to take you to new heights, and those new heights are going to be reflected back at you in your experiences. Your life improves as you improve. And I get a lot of people on my channel that say, I do the inner work, but nothing ever happens. That's because it's about doing the inner work and then changing the actions associated. Yes, you do the inner work, but then you also change your approach. You have to start to align with the version of yourself that you wish to become. And that's not about being more valuable for others, but standing up for your value for yourself. So, I think you've experienced a lot of disappointment in love, and you have a right to be upset, and you have a right to be angry, and you have a right to feel everything you need to feel. But then at the end of the day, the only thing that you can control is looking at, okay, what was my role and how could I do things differently moving forward so that I don't attract those same connections? Or if I do attract those same connections, I can recognize it, set appropriate boundaries, speak up for my needs so that I don't go down the rabbit hole that I did and get hurt in the end. You have to learn to protect your energy, and you have to learn to start to treat your energy like something that is precious, because it is valuable, and it is a privilege to get to experience. But you have to be willing to to treat it as such, so that you're not just giving it away hoping that that will get someone to value you or get someone to love you, because people love and value people who love and value themselves is what it comes down to. The right people will always love and value people who love and value themselves. So what does Gemini need to know moving forward? So there's just a pretty major cycle in the way. Codependency is something that took me a really long time to kick, and it's something that I am actively, I'm actively in therapy. In my relationship, I am constantly having to make sure I don't slip into those patterns. Same with my partner, and it's something that we have to work through together. And the more that we learn that our value isn't dependent on the other person valuing us, but is dependent on us valuing ourselves, and then each of us showing up for that value, and it works. And that's what's kept us being able to have a healthy relationship. But I can tell you that I wouldn't be able to have this kind of relationship if I hadn't done the growth to be able to show up as the person that does value me. Does set the boundaries, does stand up for myself. And I'm able to do that because I know what I bring to the table, and the same thing goes for my partner. What does Gemini need to know moving forward? Every single time you take on the burdens of other people, you will always find yourself out of alignment with your highest good. You are not here to change, save, or fix anybody. And when we try to change, save, or fix somebody else, we are trying to change, save, or fix ourselves. And we're trying to do that by saying, if I can change you, then you can love me. Instead of saying, if I can change me, then I can love me. If I can learn to love me despite my flaws, despite my, my shadow, or because of my shadow, because that makes me who I am, then that's how I know I'm truly lovable. I think that the more that you believe that other people valuing you is what determines your value, the more you are going to feel undervalued. Because other people not valuing you is absolutely zero indication of your value. Other people not valuing you is an indication of their capacity to value and love. And that has more to do with themselves than it does for you. But you have to learn to readdress these things from a different perspective. A lot of us learn codependency in childhood. We learn it with our relationship with our parents, how maybe our value was dependent on the value we provided them. We're taught if we are compliant and we meet the needs of our parents, then that means we're a good kid. But if you're not, then you're a bad kid. And we learn that it's all about what we can be for other people, and making sure other people are happy and other people are taken care of and other people are good. And in the process of that, we completely lose ourselves and forget to figure out, what do I need? What is good for me? What needs do I need to have met? And then we enter into these relationships in our adulthood completely focused on making sure other people's needs are met, completely sacrificing our value in the process, and then ending up heartbroken in the end because these people never valued us for who we really were. They valued us for what we gave. And eventually we ran out of what to give because we weren't getting anything in return. And so when you recognize that pattern will never, ever get you a sustainable relationship, you'll change it. And you'll start to figure out what you need to do to change it, to change that approach and to change that dynamic, because that dynamic is not sustainable. These are some, like I said, these truths be truthin' in these readings recently. They're just coming out so strong. But I guess, I think that one of the hardest things for me has been having to learn how I have more control over my life than I think, but it's not over other people and other things, it's over myself. And those truths are not fun. It is not fun to face these things about yourself. It is not fun to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, what's wrong with me? What have I done wrong in these situations? That is not fun. It is so much easier to blame other people. It's so much easier to point fingers and say, you didn't do this and you did this and I'm not saying you're wrong. But what I am saying is that's not going to get you anywhere, and it's going to keep you stuck in the cycle of repeating the same experiences, because our cycles will repeat until we learn from them and until we close them. And codependency is probably the biggest one I see when I'm coaching people, and when it comes to attracting the relationships that are meant for them, is they're used to codependent connections and not healthy love. And so many of us don't even know what healthy love looks like, that we don't even know how to find it. But I can tell you that it starts with creating it within you. Having a healthy love for yourself. All right, what else does Gemini need to know moving forward? It's like you're needing a brand new perspective on relationships and what they really mean for you. Because your relationships shouldn't always be about somebody else. Your happiness shouldn't be dependent on somebody else. Your ability to feel complete and feel valuable should not depend on somebody else. But most of the time, we are looking for our relationships to do that for us. And they might in the beginning, and it feels really good, but then eventually that's going to go away because, insecurities are going to come out, fears are going to come out, chemicals die down, whatever the case is. And then all of a sudden, your relationship doesn't feel like it did in the beginning, and you don't feel like it did in the beginning, which takes away, and then you're left with the reflection of your relationship with yourself, which if you haven't worked on it, then it's not going to be pretty. So you have to change your approach on what you're even looking for in love. Are you looking for someone to complete you, or are you looking for someone to complement you? Are you looking for someone to choose you, or are you looking to choose to be with someone because they complement you? You don't want to, we have to stop doing things for love. We have to start doing things from this place of love for ourselves and for other people, and understand that Yes, doing things from love for other people is absolutely important, but in the process, we also have to do things from love for ourselves. And if we are not focusing on making sure that we are taken care of, we are going to find ourselves drained and with nothing left to give and angry at the other person who has taken so much, when at the end of the day, we are the ones that created that foundation for that dynamic in the first place. And again, I'm not saying it's your fault, and I'm not saying it's okay that other people can take that role as the taker. But the thing is, takers can only take from people who will give. So if the givers of the world can figure out how to make sure that they are only giving to people who give to them, then the takers are going to have no one else to take from. We can't change the takers. We can't change the people who drain people's energy and who don't do the inner work and who use good people as an energy source because they haven't done the inner work. You can't change that. It sucks, but what I have learned is that you get to create your own world based on how you show up in it. And in my world, there are no takers because I am only giving to people who will give back to me. And I encourage you to do the same. All right, what does Gemini need to know moving forward? But you have to change that approach. You have to change the way you see things so that you can look at your relationships from this place of, you reflect back at me the love I have for myself, instead of your love for me makes me feel valuable, therefore I'm going to do whatever I can to get you to love me. The Strength in reverse with the 9 of Cups. You don't feel good enough for what it is you truly desire. Now, here's the problem. In order for us to show up in our relationship saying, I know I'm valuable and deserving, we have to feel valuable and deserving. And the thing is, Gemini, you are valuable and deserving. Your energy is a privilege. Loving you is a privilege. It is a privilege to get to experience your energy, but you have to believe that, and no one else gets to decide that but you. That's the crazy thing, is we actually determine pretty much everything about who we are and what we are. We get to determine that, not other people. Other people might try to tell you who you are and what your value is, but you don't have to listen to them, because that doesn't matter. Your life is a reflection of the value that you believe that you have. And so if you don't feel good enough, if you don't feel confident enough for the love that you truly deserve and desire, that's what needs your attention. Not trying to become something for somebody else to love you, but figuring out, why don't I feel good enough for love? Why don't I feel lovable? What parts of myself am I ashamed of? What parts of myself do I feel like I have to hide or hold back or change or fix in order to be lovable? That is the part of you that's looking for love. And the thing is, you're looking for that part of you to be loved by someone else, and you're doing whatever you can to get that loved by someone else, but that part of you is looking to be loved by you. So, addressing the things that we don't love about ourselves and learning to love those parts about ourselves is what is going to attract the love that you're ultimately looking for. And I know this isn't what, I think that everyone wants these tarot readings that are just like, oh, the love of your life is right around the corner and it's this person and they're, and they want these messages that provide this message of hope that if you don't do anything and if you don't change, then everything's going to work out. But that is just not life. And that's why you'll watch a lot of these readings that are like, oh, new love coming in, and then nothing ever happens, or that relationship ends up failing. And you're like, well, why does this cycle keep perpetuating? And it's because we attract, and our life is a reflection of what's going on within us, which is always going to be the focus of my readings, is to redirect that energy within you so that you can take back your power and your control of your life, and so that you can manifest the relationships that you are truly deserving of. So, okay, I'm going to hop on over to the extended. In this extended, we're going to focus on what you can do right now to ensure you're moving forward in alignment with your higher self to ultimately create and attract the relationships that you deserve and desire. This is what you need to know. Extended is what you can do. Information for that is in the description box below. Thank you so much, Gemini, as always, for your support of my channel. I do obviously hope that this reading helped and resonated with you in a way that you were needing today. And as always, Gemini, I wish you nothing but love and healing on your journey moving forward. All right, bye, Gemini.